Hello traders, welcome to the weekly outlook and setups volume 262. Some volatility is entering the market and we are in the final week of October. We're also having NFP ahead of us. We're about to enter a brand new month as well. So let's make sure we get prepared right now and finish the month very strong. Let us start as usual with the economic calendar. Now we can see we're going to be having the daylight savings time shift within the European zone. And yeah, this is probably not going to change a lot because you should usually be observing the New York time mainly for your sessions. Okay, so when New York time actually changes, that is when you have to worry about a little bit about your timings. Okay. So Monday we don't have anything, just the Canadian speech. Then on Tuesday, what we have is, oh, this is also something that I spot within Japan. There are some sort of elections. So if you're trading the JPY, make sure to do your research. What is happening in there and how can that impact the JPY? Maybe some of you in the comments can tell me more about that. Tuesday, we're having these two news releases, very nice news releases. The job openings and the consumer confidence tend to drive a lot of volume into the market. So New York session on Tuesday, definitely tradable. Monday is not really tradable for me. I usually tend to skip Mondays overall, okay? Only if there are not any sort of very big news. However, sometimes Mondays are also extremely volatile. So you make your pick about Mondays. Wednesday, CPI for the Aussie, CPI for the Euro. Here we have GDP and the non-farm employment change, but this is kind of the fake NFP, the NFP that is released before the real one, okay? But it still tends to drive a lot of volatility. And then we also have some USD news here around 4 p.m. So Wednesday also looks pretty good, okay? And then on Thursday, we actually have, within, of course, these elections, we're also having the interest rate and the monetary policy statement and the outlooks and the press conferences. That is definitely going to bring in some volume within the Japanese yen. So if you're trading JPYs, well, watch out for that. CPI for the euro, and then we have these three news events, absolutely important. The PCE price index, super crucial. That has been very volatile in the recent period, so make sure to observe that. And then on Friday, we have NFP, okay? And PMI as well. Okay, wow. So we are having a very interesting and volatile week. Now, of course, when it comes to the dollar, we have to worry about Friday. We have to worry about Thursday here. These news are very volatile. But from Tuesday all the way to potentially Thursday, it looks very good for trading. Now, I usually don't trade the day before NFP, but if we have this kind of news, I'll probably trade because there is very likely going to be some volume. And then on Friday, pretty much calling it a day because NFP can do absolutely anything it wants. Maybe after NFP, you can trade some futures, some indices because they are potentially going to move. But for Forex, the main focus is going to be from Tuesday to Thursday. As usually, those are the best days to be trading. So with that being said, let's see how the market is looking like. Just very quickly, once again, to invite you to our free Trading Fanatics community. We're building an amazing community here. People are already covering the amazing course inside and already starting to become a lot more profitable with all the knowledge that we have in here. So make sure that you join. It's the first link in the description. As usual, we're going to get started with the Dixie. So a lot of bullish momentum has been entering the dollar. Now, this is mainly due to pretty much the dollar having the highest interest rate currently from all the other major currency pairs. And we're having an overall strong dollar across the whole board. Now, what is quite interesting, this is something that I want to start with, is that we're having a strong dollar, but we're also having an extremely strong gold, which is usually not the case because gold is actually competing against the dollar. And if the dollar is bullish, then gold should be bearish. However, right now we're trading in a different times, right? In different market conditions where a lot of money is also pouring into gold as a safe haven instrument. And you can see it's just climbing higher, okay? So when it comes to, again, that correlation between the DXY and gold, don't take it way too literal. The DXY mainly affects the euro and potentially a little bit of the pound USD, okay? So we're having a very bullish month. And again, if you remember, we were tapping inside that monthly bearish imbalance, but that so far looks like it's just potentially not gonna hold. We're also about to encounter that order block. We are already inside here, but the market is just pushing and pushing and pushing. And we're having 4 consecutive bullish weeks. And all the weeks are just keep running away, always breaking the previous candle's high, printing what I call runaway gaps, breakaway gaps, and pretty much running away from everything, not really giving us any pullback. The liquidity point that I'm currently looking at is that little weekly swing high here, because that is the only thing that the market could potentially react from right now. We still had that order block, the market tapped it, it pushed up. So yeah, we're just keep pushing higher. And you can see here, we had a very tiny little bit of an imbalance here on the daily time frame where the market tapped on Thursday. Friday took out the previous daily low, which is something that I kind of expected in the morning to happen on Friday. And then we very nicely started to launch higher, potentially right now leaving us with two very nice targets. This is the daily swing high, that is the previous weekly high, and then of course that old swing high here to the left. Is there something on the fall already printing? Yes, there is. In fact, it actually looks quite good. We're also having a hourly bullish imbalance with a break of structure down there. That is giving us some very nice zone to potentially trade higher from. So to me, this looks like a very nice trade. Now, if this even happens on Monday, if we have a similar setup on the other pairs, which we're going to have a look at right now, I would definitely be even eager to strike on Monday. All right. So it looks pretty good. That is the overall outlook on the DXY. We're getting very easy to a bias, which is very good. I'm fully bullish. Let's see, daily bullish, hourly bullish. We're already getting some very nice POI here. We're getting the order block. We're getting very clear draws on liquidity on top. Everything looks bullish, but of course, let's see if the market is not going to surprise us and maybe start pulling back towards all of these weekly imbalances. But I don't think we're going to do that until we take some sort of a major liquidity, which for me is currently this high. So I'm forecasting that high and the previous weekly high. Let's see if we're going to get there. Euro USD continuing the flush as well. The monthly candle is looking extremely bearish, which kind of gives us overall clue what next month could do. We are potentially gonna, after taking this high as liquidity, and you can see we did not really body close above it. Right now we could be heading for the opposite side, which is gonna be very interesting. Now, unlike the DXY, Euro USD is already taking that weekly swing point. So remember the DXY, I told you that this is the target. Euro USD already took it. So when it comes to divergences like this, it's always tricky because right now Euro USD can potentially start pulling us back into that weekly bearish imbalance. And that is going to cause also the DXY to start pulling back without taking that high. So make sure you're also aware of these sort of things. Okay. Now we took that. Let's see. Are we going to continue lower? Are we going to start pulling back towards that weekly imbalance? So those are pretty much the two things we have to be looking for. And unlike the DXY, this one also had a very tiny daily bearish imbalance. But again, you can see the first candle kind of massively pushed up, only to actually tap us into the order block here. By the way, I made a very detailed video on order blocks. Make sure to watch it. It's the video that I published this week. And then the next candle on Friday just took out the previous daily high and very nicely flushed lower. So it's kind of giving me the same vibe as we have on the DXY. Do we have on the 40 time frame? Yes, we do. All right, so that is a very nice liquidation pattern. So coming from that daily OB, and we're printing this very nice 4-hourly bearish imbalance with a break of structure and yet again with a 4-hourly OB as well. Okay, which right now, if you check out my video on order blocks, you know how I draw them. So I'm going to start utilizing them a lot more because you know what I'm looking for. Okay, so pretty much, yeah, this is what I'm looking for. Pullback and then potentially targeting that low. That's on Euro USD. And if this 4-hourly zone fails, let me also give you the other thing. If it comes in, reacts and fails and it starts printing bullishness, then the potential draw on liquidity becomes that high. Okay. So keep that in mind. So those are the two main outcomes I would expect out of this week. I am more definitely leaning towards the bearish side because the DXY is super strong and Euro is super weak because they also cut their rate. So it doesn't make any sense to be looking to long Euro USD even from a fundamental perspective. Okay. Didn't take any trades on Euro USD myself. My community took quite a lot of them. I was mainly focused on DAX and Gold this week. There is one lovely short trade right here. There was another one somewhere right here. So hopefully some of you guys took some shorts on Euro USD, but this is my expectation for next week. Looking at the pound on the monthly time frame, so there is nothing much to extract on the monthly. Okay, you can see within this overall push here, we didn't really have any imbalance. So there is no order block. There is nothing that I would potentially consider. So then I'm going to start making my way to the weekly time frame where the very latest thing we did is we took out that weekly swing point. But what we're also currently doing is we're tapping into an old weekly imbalance, what I will call a weekly reaction area. Okay, because I wouldn't really necessarily look too long from that one because that is an old zone. okay, that could potentially cause the market to just tap in, react to pullback, and then to potentially continue going lower with the overall bias. Now, just above, the only thing we have on the weekly is that weekly bearish imbalance. You can see the market is kind of running away from it. So it seems like we're potentially not gonna tap. However, we have something that we don't have, for example, in EURUSD. On GU, we're making a move lower. However, we're not printing any bearish imbalances, which to me right now suggests, well, okay, if I actually want to continue shorting that pair, where can I short it from? Well, I don't really have any areas. Now, if you watched my video again on order blocks, you will know that this to me is not going to be an order block. Why? Because there is no bearish imbalance. Okay. So right now I'm going to start making my way to the hourly time frame. And don't get me wrong, there were actually two, once again, very nice short trades on GU. One was from here, one was from here again. Both of them had that order block. I even had some examples within that order block video that I showed you. But then we tap into that weekly reaction area, and then we suddenly kind of shifted a little bit in terms of momentum. And currently it is a little bit stuck. So if I am to pick a pair right now, it will not be GU, because EURUSD was a lot bearish than GU is, and GU is kind of starting to look a little bit bullish, right? We actually had here a little foul imbalance, but that one is currently not holding. So that is going to be the liquidity target. But when this liquidity target gets taken, we really have to see what is going on. Is the market going to continue impulsing, breaking structure with an imbalance to form this 2 buy candles on order block, and then to potentially retest and start heading towards that low? Or is it going to start doing something different and maybe start pushing higher and then targeting some sort of liquidity highs? Because there is no imbalance to be filled right now. All we have is liquidity all the way until that weekly. But in order to get to that weekly, we're going to need a very big catalyst in the form of some sort of major news. So I'm definitely not going to be calling reversals, okay? I am bearish on the GU, but I would prefer to short other pairs that are a lot more bearish than GU. This is why it's always important for you to pick the right market. Because if you try to short GU right now, well, it's not as weak, for example, as EURUSD is. So you better pick EU, okay? But this is kind of my overall view on GU. I will definitely be more bearish. And if, of course, the overall DXY continues to go higher, GU could go lower, and we can definitely find some shorts. But first, I would need to see that hourly break of structure happen with an imbalance in order to consider a short trade idea. So hopefully that happens on Monday and we can tackle it on Tuesday forward. Aussie dollar also suddenly started becoming quite bearish. You can see the monthly candle is an absolute drop. The weekly candle kind of had 2 slower weeks. You saw NZUSD was a lot bearish, but this week Aussie dollar just said, all right, man, I'm going as well. And it took out that weekly swing point. Super bearish. The only weekly imbalance we have is all the way up here. Now, I would definitely not expect for this one to tap. Like, I mean, just look at this candle. Does it make sense for you to be looking for such a deep pullback? Not at all. Okay, so hopefully we have something on the daily, but then we drop to the daily time frame. And I love Aussie dollar, but I haven't loved it for a very long time. I mean, since these kind of periods here, it was not forming anything on the daily, and then all of a sudden it flushed here during 1 week. And then since then, it just stopped making any daily imbalances. It got very, very, very choppy, okay? And it's still making a move lower. But what I kind of hate about it is that it's making it in a very choppy fashion. You can see there was not a single imbalance here, and then a move up, then down, then back up, then down. There are some trades to be found, but they're just not my trades, all right? Now, currently we're super bearish. We're taking liquidity. We don't really have anything to work with on the daily. So the only thing we can work with right now is this hourly bearish imbalance that formed exactly on market closure. It took out this as liquidity. Now, this is an order block here, but what I don't like about this idea, by the way, is that we're way too low. Now, we just took weekly liquidity. And usually when you take a weekly liquidity, you can expect like a weekly or a daily pullback. Now, we did have 1 day of a pullback that kind of came into this older OB here and within this imbalance. And right now we're continuing to push lower. So let's see. I mean, if it's going to continue pulsing lower. Now, the only thing that I see right now is this kind of setup. There is nothing else. I usually do not like selling that low when the market is like pushing and pushing. I usually don't like selling it. Although sometimes I regret not doing that because you never know when the market is kind of going to stop. Okay, now usually it stops when it takes liquidity, but right now the only liquidity point that we have left is this guy. So maybe all the way until then, it could continue pushing. Okay, it could continue pushing. So if you get any sort of pullbacks, if you get any sort of setups that you're looking for, I would say short bias on Aussie dollar. Well, let's see if it continues to roll or if it starts a pullback. Now, if you remember, for quite some time, NZUSD was actually the weaker pair, right? Because they're kind of brothers, NZUSD and Aussie dollar. But you can see this one already took that weekly low quite some time ago in the first week of October. Aussie dollar took it just right now in the pretty much in the last week of October, right? And this week also NZUSD imposed very strongly lower. And yeah, I mean, it looks like it just wants to go for that low. But first, let's find something that is before that, which is immediately this one. And you can see Aussie dollar hasn't taken this low. NZUSD already took it. Okay, but what I also don't like about NZUSD is that it's also not making anything on the daily. It keeps sliding down, but it didn't make any sort of daily structure. But again, on the 40 time frame, you could definitely find something. But look at that, it's kind of giving us a very large chops, then a push, then a very large chop, then a push, then immediate pullback, and then again it just starts sliding down in a very choppy fashion. I don't like it, and I'm perfectly okay with not trading something if it's just not offering my setups. Okay, I am very patient. I only took 3 trades this week, which is again my kind of first real week of trading. But yeah, so currently, very similar to the Aussie dollar, we're taking some sort of liquidity right now, and the only thing we have is that hourly zone. So what I would actually love to happen on a pair like that is to stop out a couple of people, give us a little bit of a deeper pullback. Okay, not all the way up, but maybe just take out some sort of liquidity. Now, we can't really go to take out the previous weekly high. So maybe just some daily highs here, maybe some hourly highs like this one, like that one. And then maybe start printing some bearishness, because when that happens, you're going to have a very clear low to work with, to target. Because currently, you're literally trying to sell a lower low on the weekly, daily, and hourly time frame. So it's very low. It's very low, but that is the only thing that I see right now. So that is the setup that I will potentially be looking at. But if I really want to be looking for only A+ setups, that is not one of them. Okay, the A+ setups are when you have a push, when you have a clear pullback into a zone, you have a very clear high to target, you get your setups and you trade towards that high. Currently, we don't have such a low. So wait for that low to happen, to pull back, and then pretty much you trade into it. Okay, so that's my view on NZUSD. Definitely bearish, but are we gonna get a setup? Let's see. Well, what can I say about gold? Continues to make new all-time highs on the weekly time frame. Yet another bullish week, creating a very lovely weekly bullish imbalance. Now, that weekly bullish imbalance can be amazing for a potential bigger pullback. So then we can potentially start looking at very nice longs again. But it looks like right now, the market is potentially popping towards that daily high first. Okay, so the very big question is, are we going to take this one first and then potentially start pulling back to the weekly? Okay, I definitely do think so, because look at Friday. Friday very nicely imposed higher, potentially targeting that high. Now I took a stop loss this week on gold. I traded it from this zone here. Okay, I really love this kind of manipulation into that daily zone to the left. Okay, then I started seeing these imbalances fail. Okay, and the only stupid thing that I did is I took the trade a little bit late. So I literally took the trade. I'm gonna show you where I took it from. I took the trade exactly from right here, stop loss below, and then I was literally targeting again my 2R, but I was even hoping to leave it to run for more, right, all the way towards that high. However, very bad timing. The market just came to, it formed the Asian high, it came to stop me out. Okay, and then pretty much I didn't really look to re-enter on a Friday, because again, there was a long trade here, but come on, I'm not gonna be trading at 7 o'clock on Friday. So a rather shitty stop loss for me, because I usually don't really look to trade at that time, but the setup was provided, so I did take it. And yeah, kind of bias was right, but just had to liquidate a little bit and then to potentially continue. Now, what I really like on gold right now is that, again, remember, it's coming from a daily bullish imbalance. That is the target that we have. And not only that, but it also is printing 4-hourly bullish breaks of structures and also the 4-hourly bullish imbalance. And this is where also structure falls short. You're looking, hey, there is my trend change, There is the bearish push, pulls back. I'm looking for shorts. Sorry, the market's gonna take out the high, right? Why? Well, because you have to be really following the order flow and what is currently happening in the market, because structure is also a bit old. What I'm currently using with imbalances in order flow, that is the freshest kind of momentum and the freshest type of understanding or view of the markets that you can have. So this is what I'm looking for right now. Potential pullback and then heading for that high. If it gets some sort of a 1 hourly setup, that could definitely be nice. But to me, this also looks like a very, very clean setup. Together with EU shorts, it looks very good. Let's see. Targeting that high. And when this high gets taken, then it's usually time to step aside because it's a new all-time high. The market can once again do something like this. Hopefully then this time to pull us back into the weekly. And then from there, maybe into the incoming weeks, we can start having some continuous nice longs. So for now, gold long bias. Let's see how it goes. Now, I hope you watched my news overview, because for Japan, we're having some sort of elections ongoing right now, and we're also having the interest rate decision, the press conferences, which is going to drive a lot of volume here. So this one is tapping into an older monthly bearish imbalance, but on the weekly time frame, it's absolutely ripping higher. Now, again, the DXY is getting quite strong right now, and it seems like the yen is once again getting quite weak. So tapping into that monthly zone, we're having quite a bullish week overall, and how we actually ended up is by tapping into that daily bullish imbalance to potentially target that high here. And then as we start dropping onto the hourly time frame, you can see, unlike some of the other pairs, like for example, unlike gold or unlike Euro USD, we're not really getting a hourly bullish imbalance here. So it was very slow to end the week. So I wouldn't necessarily immediately look to long that one. I would look for some sort of a more confirmation, because look at how it ended. It was not amazing. I was actually looking to long USD JPY exactly from here on Friday. Okay, but I was looking at the overall development. It was staying inside the Asian range for such a long time, so I decided not to take a trade. But if I took it, it would have looked something like that. And even you can see my 2R wouldn't have been tapped. So that is, I'm kind of happy that I didn't take it, because I would have stayed in it for such a long time. So I need to see some sort of a bullishness kick in, and currently what we're having is this hourly reaction area. So what I would like to see is for the market to tap this one, react, break it, introduce some bullishness, and then literally wait for the market to show me and tell me, hey man, I want to go higher, I want to take out that high. Because if it doesn't show me, if the market does not convince me that it wants to go higher, why would I convince myself that it's going to go higher? That is kind of the wrong way to trade. Throwing forecasts, hey, the market must go here, it should go here. No, let the market tell you where it wants to go, and then you're literally going to jump with it. Okay, so that is USD JPY. I am definitely more bullish on it, also supporting the idea that the DXY is also quite bullish. So let's see if we're going to be getting some longs on USD yen. That one looks like a very good target. However, once again, make sure that you're aware of the news. We're having very volatile news incoming for the JPY, so that can definitely change the scenery. So watch out for that. Very quick look at EJ, which is a bad pair to be trading right now, because USD JPY is extremely bullish and Euro USD is extremely bearish. So this one is not supposed to be moving a lot. Now this week we actually pinged inside that monthly imbalance, which is quite nice. We were in a very big chop. The market ended up pinging it inside right here. It has a very small daily bullish imbalance. But honestly, this is really not something that I would look to trade right now. It's just the nature of that pair being a combination between Euro USD and USD JPY, and Euro USD being extremely bearish, which is trying to drag Euro JPY lower. However, USD JPY being extremely bullish, which is still trying to also drag Euro JPY higher. So one tries to drag it lower, one tries to drag it higher. So what happens with EJ? It happens this, right? So not the best pair to be trading in terms of logic, okay? Now, you can see we just had a little pop here on Wednesday, and then it just continues to chop again. If you're looking for a setup, I would literally say, hey, wait for that daily pullback and see if it's going to give you a long trade to target into that high. That is the only thing that I see. But honestly, I don't want to be touching this pair right now, because it literally doesn't make sense. So that's my outlook on it, just keeping it nice and short. I could say bullish bias, but we're also tapping into a very big area into the monthly time frame. So do you really want to go long? I don't think so. Currently, GJ is going to be a little bit stronger than Euro JPY because the pound is overall stronger than EU, or it's not as weak as Euro USD is. Now, again, remember, for example, the pound is not currently like making bearish imbalances, while Euro USD it's looking quite bearish. So Euro is weaker than the pound, which means that, for example, Euro JPY will be more bearish than GJ will be. Okay. So currently on the weekly time frame, we actually had a nice pop higher. Now, the next potential area that we can be looking for this one to reach is that weekly area. You can use that as your potential draw on liquidity. And how are we going to get there? Well, hopefully something on the daily, nothing on the daily. We actually did end up expanding for 3 days on this one. Not bad, not bad. But no daily imbalances. Then we drop to the hourly time frame. Yeah. Nothing to say. It ended up very strangely. So if eventually you have some sort of bullishness kicking on that one to at least target that high, or then maybe even some continuous bullish pressure to target this high, definitely. But again, will I actually call this one as a move that I have confidence in? No, because it's just right now moving kind of a little bit on autopilot. This move was nice here. Could you have caught it? Maybe. But I don't really see an entry here because it literally had no zones at all. So yeah, this is not a pair that I will trade. I'm not going to overcomplicate it. I'm literally not looking for anything on GJ. If you ask me, I'm more bullish than bearish simply because of the recent price action, but it's not something that I would touch. All right, here we are at the US indices. A very tricky week. I had a win on Monday, and then literally following the days of Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, I took some losses. Kind of got the bias wrong on one of the days. The other ones just chopped the whole session. The other one kind of, again, got the bias wrong. Let's see how it looks like. Now, the monthly time frame is kind of looking like an indecision currently at all-time highs. And what we literally had this week is that weekly pullback, okay? And we had some sells off this week. So pulling back into that weekly zone, it looks pretty good. Looks pretty good right now to actually start flipping into the long side. But as we're going to start exploring also with the other indices, they are not as weak. Not as strong. And you can see we tap into that weekly zone. So pretty much, I don't know how I won on Monday, but it was a very clear setup. Tuesday chopped, and then Wednesday, I think I tried to long Wednesday, which was exactly when we dumped. And then Thursday, it was absolute chop. All right. And then Friday, tried to push up, retraced all the way back down. Now, it does seem like this weekly imbalance, it could still be in play. The only play that I will be looking at is the previous weekly low to maybe get swept. And then from there for us to continue for new all-time highs. But I'm starting to get a little bit of a feeling that we might be due for a deeper pullback. Okay. Now, look at this. It was a little bit of a chop, okay? I was kind of excited to go long from that zone, but that zone actually failed. I think I tried to long it here just before that drop. It was quite crazy. And then I missed out on all of these shorts because I'm dumb, all right? And I'm still getting used to trading futures. Then the market pulled back here. I actually tried to long it here, I believe, but I still got a stop loss. I think I got a nasty stop loss there on NASDAQ. It went up long and then it pulled back all the way down. And it didn't respect that bullish imbalance with that bullish order block. It actually broke it, took the liquidity below here. So it's starting to get a little bit tricky. You can see at the tops, usually we start consolidating. And I had like 6 or 7 wins the last weeks in a row, okay? And this week pretty much came my losing streak. And why did my losing streak came in is because literally we started getting into a little bit of a transition, maybe to a pullback, or to, I don't want to say it, but maybe to a bearish market, okay? And you can see the market started getting a little bit funky, started consolidating during the start of the sessions. It started kind of going up and down and up and down. So currently, I don't have a bias. Getting into the beginning of the week as well, you can see there are no daily imbalances whatsoever. The last one we had was this one that was tapped. There we also had a daily older one that actually got tapped and the market kind of gave a reaction. So if I start seeing right now 4 hourly bearish imbalances, well, I can already see the market going all the way down here. Okay, but first of all, we really need to see that bearish trend established. And currently it is not established. So again, let's see. Let's see how it goes. I don't really have any sort of view right now on ES, but what I want to show you right now is also the other indices, and to kind of make my point that I'm feeling like we could be due for a pullback. So let's have a look at Nasdaq. Now, the first thing that is sketchy is that if you look at the all-time high on Nasdaq, which was right here, the market is not taking all-time high. But if you look at the all-time high, for example, on ES, it has been making all-time highs. So one is making all-time highs, the other one is not. That is sketchy, okay? So what that shows us actually is that Nasdaq is overall weaker, okay? And then we start transferring onto the weekly time frame. Now, do you see any sort of weekly imbalance here? Now, remember, on ES, we had it. We're pulling back into it right now. Here, we don't have anything. And you can see again why I started having losses. Well, the market simply started chopping all of a sudden, okay? And you also have to be really good to spot these sort of conditions and potentially either decrease your risk or look to step aside a little bit, okay? Now, nothing on the weekly. We swept the previous weekly high and we swept the previous weekly low, and we closed as an absolutely perfect indecision. Now, it's crazy, okay? Then going on to the daily time frame. Now, just look at this. Since 13th of September, okay, we have not formed a daily imbalance. Since the 13th of, since September, we're already ending October. Now, we're making some moves, but what that simply means is that the market is running out of momentum. And you can see right now that we're starting to get into a little bit of a consolidation. Going up, down, a very big chop pullback, one day of a sell-off, then we recover, but we're still sweeping, so we're not doing anything, okay? Now, I had a bullish bias on Nasdaq this week. I was targeting that high. It literally came in to take it in the very last hour on Friday. Kind of getting mad, because I do believe I tried to long it here. It went up going short. Yeah, tricky. You can see a very big consolidation, a massive sell-off, a massive buy-off, and still coming back into the range. So the only thing we have right now is this folly bullish imbalance to potentially hold price. There is nothing on the daily, there is nothing on the weekly. The only thing we have is that folly zone, okay? Which comes after we swept that massive liquidity point here. That was Monday. Was that the previous weekly low? Yeah, that's the previous weekly low, yes. So let's see. I mean, if the market is going to go long, I would love to see this one getting respected and to potentially start once again printing some bullish structure and then maybe start targeting some higher levels, not to say all-time highs. However, if we start seeing a shift of sentiment on ES, and if we start seeing also Nasdaq start to consistently print bearish imbalances, because this week it kind of gave us a little bit of a clue. It kind of, oh, bearish here, but then it pulled back, dropped, and then immediately flipped to bullish once again. Here we got that little bit of a drop. Hey, I could be bearish, but then once again it flipped. So it's not ready to commit. Now, these sort of things, they happen for liquidity purposes, to stop out long traders like me, right? And then to potentially still continue the move. But this is why we really need to see order flow establish bearish before we call a bearish market, okay? So let's see, okay? I'm so far bullish, but if I start seeing this volatile zone fail, and if I start seeing something bearish form, I would definitely start targeting the current weekly low, which is going to be the previous weekly low next week, and that could be my target. But of course, if the market starts popping higher, well, I'm just going to keep longing it, okay? Because I'm overall bullish as usual on the indices, okay? So let's see. This is Nasdaq. It's looking a little bit 50-50, but let's look at YM right now. Now look at US 30. It is already having a bearish monthly candle, and on the weekly time frame, this is a very bearish candle. Nasdaq chop, ES bearish, but YM, it's just crushing. Now, where is this one going? It's going potentially towards that low, and then of course there is nothing else to stop the market below that low. We have this OB as well, so that below this low here is going to be a lot of potential support. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens then. And you can see, like, sometimes we have to look at YM, because for example, in this case, that was super bearish. And if I really saw that YM is very bearish like this, maybe I wouldn't have been so aggressive on the longs, for example, on Nasdaq and ES. Friday taps in beautifully into that daily bearish imbalance. Remember, we didn't have any sort of bearish imbalances anywhere else, but YM did the bullish here, tapped in, fulfilled its purpose, did a bearish here, tapped in, fulfilled its purpose as well. So YM is definitely getting a little bit more volatile. driving towards that liquidity point. And also, how are we gonna get there is also we're having that beautiful hourly bearish imbalance as well. So do you see why I'm getting a little bit of a feeling that we're starting to become a little bit more bearish? But then of course the question is, what are we gonna do when we dip below that low? Are we gonna close below it and continue making structure below it, right? Or are we just gonna come in to ping it and immediately start making very nice V shapes and potentially starting to push higher and maybe start again targeting new all-time highs? Let's see. But to me right now, US30 or YM, as they call it in the futures world, is bearish, and that will be some sort of a setup that I will be looking for. Okay, even a potential retest of that lower low will be nice, because again, I wouldn't really look to refine to the order block all the way up. Sometimes I even take lower lows like that, because if I go to the 8-hourly time frame or something like that, maybe 12 hours, that is going to be one candle. Okay, it's not in that case, it keeps refining it, but you get the point. Okay, so that is US30, very bearishly looking, which kind of makes me think that the other indices might potentially start failing whatever bullish things that they have. So very key week is ahead of us, with NFP also around the corner. Let's see. Okay, let's see, staying a little bit more detached right now, because I'm starting to get not so clear on the bias. It's starting to get a little bit 50-50 whether we're continuing higher or entering into a bearish market. Let's see, and let me know in the comments what you actually think about the US indices. Well, DAX basically made my week profitable this week, although I'm not extremely happy, because it turned out just to be a 1 hour for this week, just a 1%. But also reaching all-time highs. It's starting to chop around a little bit, and the weekly candle is also right now quite bearish, and there is absolutely nothing to stop it right now on the weekly. And then of course we start making our way to the daily time frame as well, and you can see, for example, here we had that daily imbalance here, and the market took liquidity. So I took a long break even here, and then I took a short win into that daily zone. So then starting to make our way lower right now. Currently exactly on the closure, it got quite messed up. We actually tapped into that zone here. We tried to push up. I literally traded along on this candle, but then the market flipped, and then since then we haven't done anything. So getting into the beginning of next week for DAX, it is just not clear, and I would say I'm even a little bit more bearish than bullish. Why? Because this forward zone failed to do its job. It failed to push the market higher. It came in, it tried, it came in again, it tried, but it's failing. So I wouldn't really target that high. In this case, I will target this low. Okay, so if you start getting then some 1 hourly bearishness towards that low, that could be a potential trade idea. Okay, but literally my trades on, so one of the trades that I took was a break even from here. This 1 hourly zone taps in, pushed up, after we took out the high, I went break even, and then it flushed lower. And then the other trade I took was from this hourly zone here. Was that one? I don't remember. Let me just double check. Yeah, it was exactly, yeah, it was this one here. Or was it that one? No, it's this one. Yeah, I literally took a short trade that just went very nicely. I think it's that one. I do believe I entered on the 5-minute time frame. Yep, I literally entered from here after this candle closure here, and I just targeted my 2R on the way down. So yeah, that is my winning trade on DAX this week. And then I took a break even, and then the loss on gold, which makes my week pretty much a 1% win this week. So let's see if we're going to be finishing it strong next week for DAX. I don't really have a bias, and as I said, I'm more bearish right now than bullish, because I simply think this low right now is a very nice liquidity. All right, full circle back. Now the DXY is currently very bullish, and it's actually giving us a very nice setup. We're coming from a daily zone, we're printing a hourly zone, we're getting a very clear drawn liquidity, so it actually looks too good to be true. But let's see, bullish bias on the DXY, which means bearish bias on EU. EU is kind of my favorite pair getting into the beginning of next week for a potential short trade idea. GU I would step away from because it's not as bearish as EU is. Aussie dollar and NZUSD are also super bearish, but they are very low right now, taking a lot of liquidity. And at times like this, you could expect some sort of a pullback, right? So pullbacks like that, pullbacks like this, they are going to happen because the market will need to generate some liquidity as well if there are no imbalances to fill. And on the daily and on the weekly time frame, we don't really have any imbalances to fill on those two pairs. Gold is looking super nicely bullish, very easy target towards that high. Let's see if that is going to get achieved, because again, it's also coming from a daily zone. But then of course right now we printed a weekly zone that could eventually be a very nice pullback target to then start looking for longs once again. But let's see when that is going to happen. USD is long bias. However, it slowed down on Thursday and Friday. So it's not as bullish as I wanted to see. So if we actually start showing some bullish signs on it, then I'm going to entertain a potential long idea. Euro Yen and GBP JPY, absolute skip. Indices, as I said, I'm slowly starting to expect a little bit of a drop, a bigger correction to potentially grab some liquidity. Now, usually like a 6 to 8% is a very nice correction, and towards these lows is just 3%. Okay, so I would definitely expect something like that to happen. Not I'm calling a bearish market, but for example, look at YM. It's already down the 3%, so it can push down a little bit. Is it gonna drag the rest with it? I don't know. But this week was very choppy on ES and NQ, which is kind of telling us a little bit that we are in a little bit of an indecision mode, a little bit of a transition mode. So let's see if we're going to start pulling back, or are we going to resume the uptrend. DAX is also starting to get a little bit choppy, and although I managed to take a win on it, it didn't really persist as it was going. Currently also closing as a little bit of a chop. I am more bearish than I am bullish, bearish towards that low, but of course, let's see. So into the next week, my most favorite thing for the beginning of the week is pretty much Euro USD and gold. Okay, so let's see how these two are going to play out. And of course, guys, let me know how you developed this week. Let me know how trades you took. Let me know what is your favorite setup looking for the incoming week. And let's make sure to end the month of October very strong.